All right, kia ora everyone. Thank you for joining the Grief and Adjusting for Change workshop. Acknowledge that this is a challenging topic and you're probably joining this because you're going through a challenging time. So just want to acknowledge you for joining us today. My name is Tessa and with me is the health coach Anu. We'll go into a little bit more about our roles and just hope that you find today helpful. So just wanted to open by starting with a quote from Vicky Harrison. Grief is like the ocean. It comes in waves, ebbing and flowing. Sometimes the water is calm, and sometimes it is overwhelming. All we can do is learn to swim. And so today is going to be about acknowledging that the grief journey is challenging and has its ups and downs. And it'll just be about talking about ways that we can learn to swim throughout those ups and downs, ebbs and flows. So a little bit about me before we jump in. As I mentioned, my name is Tessa. I'm a health improvement practitioner. I'm an occupational therapist by training, but my role at Mangere Health Centre is to support people when they're going through challenges or transitions in life, whatever that might be, including grief, but that may also include a lot of other things as well. So it may include things like stress, sleep, anxiety, depression, or just feeling generally down, pain, physical and emotional, coping with physical health conditions, relationship challenges, parenting, child and youth well-being. So I see people from little babies all the way up to the older adults, pre and postnatal well-being, drug or alcohol use. There may be other challenges that come up, such as financial challenges, housing challenges, lots of different things. But the sessions with me, they're free. They're about half an hour and they can be on the phone or in person. And usually what they are is focused on practical strategies to support your health and well-being. And sometimes they link people up with different services and supports in the community as well. I'll just hand you over briefly to Anu to talk about her role in the clinic as well before we get into things.
Thanks, Tessa. Hello, everyone. My name is Anu. I'm the health coach working at Margaret Health Centre. So I work alongside with Tessa. So I help our patients with their health and well-being in terms of their lifestyle changes. So things regarding their common health conditions could be something like pre-diabetes, diabetes, cholesterol, gout, or high blood pressure, or any other health conditions you might have. Usually my consultation is around eating healthy, exercise, a little bit of stress, and then also sleep as well. So talking about ways to help you manage that. If you also want to work on being smoke-free or reducing smoking as well, I can support you with that. And then I can also support you with communicating with your doctor, nurse, or other health professionals as well. So similar as Tessa, my appointments are free, around 30 minutes, and you can follow up in person or phone call. There's no limits to our appointments. Just call us at the clinic, or if you're in for your appointment with a GP or nurse, just pop in to see us or ask them to introduce us to you. Awesome. Thanks, Tessa.
Cool. So just wanted to mention a couple of things before we jump into the content of the workshop today. Just recommend finding a space where you won't be interrupted so you can focus on this really important work that you've chosen to do by joining this workshop today. And just ask that you'll need a pen and paper as well. We'll be going over a bit of a plan at the end, putting together a bit of a plan. Anu and I always like to have our workshops and one-to-one sessions focus on practical things that we can do to support ourselves. All right, a little bit about what to expect today. We're going to go over what is grief and the grieving process. We're going to talk about honoring the person who has passed. I'm going to introduce us to a self-compassion exercise. We did go over a self-compassion exercise if you've watched in one of our other workshops, so we'll go over that again. Making a bit of a plan. Then we'll talk a little bit about feedback and how you can support us to continue this work, and then we'll have a closing to finish off. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about what is grief because we all experience it differently, and I just want to acknowledge what is grief. So grief is the natural response to loss, especially the loss of someone or something deeply meaningful. It involves a range of emotions. Grief is not just about feeling sorrow, it's actually a process of adjusting to life without who or what was lost. And there is no right way to grieve. Often our minds like to beat us up, say, you're crying too much, or you're not crying enough, you're reacting too much, you're not reacting enough. But there's no actual right way to grieve, and we may respond differently at different times throughout the process as well. But it is something that we all go through as humans, as challenging as it is. And so I just want to mention as well today that we will be talking about some really challenging topics. And so do pause, come back to this video later if you need to, and you're most welcome to reach out to me and we can have a bit of a chat if needed for extra support too. You can also reach out to other loved ones for support as well. Right, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the grieving process, because it does change over time, and I think this is something that's been useful for me and useful for the people who come to see me in the clinic or I talk to over the phone. And it's this little diagram here. Usually in clinic I would draw it on a piece of paper, but we've put it together on paint for you today, and put it into the slides. So firstly, I like to think of ourselves in this process like a box. Yeah, so that middle box that you can see there, which is around the circle that says grief. And inside that box is a ball. Yeah, and the ball is grief. That's that purple ball there. And what happens is when change happens, or someone passes away, or we lose a pet, or there's a big transition, grief happens. Yeah, and so grief arrives inside us. And so what can happen when that happens is we often get shaken up as the box. Yeah, we get shaken all over the place. And that ball will bounce around inside the box inside of us. And on the side of the box, you'll notice that there's a bit of another square there called pain. There's a pain button on the side of the box. And what happens is when we first experience grief, when we get shaken up, we see something that reminds us of the person or the pet or the thing that we've lost, and the ball is often hitting that pain button over and over again when we get shaken up, and it feels really challenging. Yeah. And over time, what happens is that we, as the box, grow bigger. So the grief is always with us. The person, the pet, the thing that we've lost is always with us. We always take them with us. However, we grow around the grief. Yeah. And so that pain button is a little bit further away from the ball. And so when we do get shaken up by something, when we do get, some people might call it triggered, by a song that reminds us of someone, or we see someone that reminds us of someone, or something like that, or what we're not able to do now, that ball hits that pain button sometimes, but not as often. Yeah, so and in fact, we would sometimes want that ball to hit that pain button, because that pain button shows us that we cared. Yeah, grief is the other side of love. That we are feeling grief shows that we loved that person, loved that pet, cared about that situation in our life that is no longer there. And so that is kind of the grieving process, is that there's this grief ball that appears inside us. We get a bit shaken up, and that pain button gets pushed. And over time, we grow around that grief. The pain button is still there, but it doesn't get hit as often as we grow around that grief, as we carry that person, that pet, that situation with us into the rest of our lives. So I hope that makes sense. If you would like to discuss it more, again, you're most welcome to call the clinic and we can have a bit more of a chat for some more clarity if that's helpful. But that's definitely been something that's been helpful for me. All right, so the next part we're going to talk about, something that can be helpful for people going through grief, is honoring the person or pet who has passed, or acknowledging the change that has occurred. Yeah, so we're going to go into that a little bit more. So often it's helpful to not only think of a person or the change that happened or the pet that's passed, but actually to do something about it, to help us process through these emotions, these thoughts in a healthy, practical way. So these are some examples of some things that people have found useful. So one is a ceremony, and that might look different for different people. It could be going to the cemetery to visit them. It could be doing something you enjoyed together. It might be passing down knowledge from the person or from yourself to someone else. It could be choosing to act in alignment with the person who's past values. So acting in accordance with what's important to them, what they would want. Many people I've seen have enjoyed creating something to remember an experience of the person. So it might be writing, art, waiata, gardening. Some people find writing a letter to their loved one is helpful. Gathering with whānau, gathering around for support. Sharing stories, talanoa, kōrero, and giving to others. Yeah, giving to others. It's often shown that giving not only impacts the person who's receiving the gift, but it's actually just as, if not more, beneficial for the mental health of the person who's doing the giving, even if it's something small. So I guess you can just have a little bit of a brainstorm about how you might honor your loved person, or how you might honor this change that's happened, or how you might honor that pet that's passed away. So next we're going to talk a little bit about self-compassion, which is a key, I don't want to call it skill, but process to have on hand in our kete when we are going through something challenging. Yeah. So self-compassion is about being kind and understanding to yourself when you're going through a hard time, rather than being harsh or self-critical. It's not self-pity or self-indulgence. It's a healthy way to relate to yourself that builds emotional strength and resilience. So we're going to look into that a little bit deeper today. So I'd like to go into a little bit more about self-compassion, and then we'll give it a go together. So instead of beating yourself up for mistakes or failures, self-compassion or self-kindness means offering yourself warmth and understanding. It's recognizing that being imperfect or struggling is part of being human and not a reason to be ashamed. We all go through this at one time or another. If we are to love, we are to lose. When we suffer, we often feel like we're the only ones struggling, but in fact, there are many people who are suffering at the moment in the world. And self-compassion reminds us that pain and failure are part of the shared human experience. Everyone goes through tough times. It's not just you, even if it might feel like it. Balanced awareness rather than ignoring the emotions, rather than getting swept away by negativity. So it's about being aware of the thoughts and emotions, acknowledging them, rather than getting, I like to think, swept out to sea by the waves of emotion. We're able to acknowledge what's going on and then do something about it and kind of ride those waves rather than getting swept out to sea. All right, so we're going to do a little self-compassion exercise. So I'd like you to get comfy wherever you're lying or sitting. Yeah. I'd like you to just take some deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just acknowledging you're taking this time for you. All right. So now what I'd like us to do is just to cup our hands in our lap like this, yeah? And just taking this time to acknowledge whatever thoughts or emotions are showing up right now. You might like to close your eyes or keep them open. I recommend closing your eyes, but if it's easier to keep them open, you can. Maybe you can just focus on a little spot in front of you rather than your phone or computer screen. So just acknowledging whatever thoughts or emotions are showing up. So it might be, Here's my mind worrying about the future, or there's my mind worrying about the past. Maybe I'm noticing a feeling of sadness. Just acknowledging and noticing without judgment, just allowing it to be there. Maybe the thoughts coming up that I wonder what Tessa's going to do next. Maybe you're thinking about what you're going to have for dinner. Just acknowledging, oh, there's the thought about what I'm going to have for dinner. Just noticing what you feel in your body. Maybe you notice tension somewhere, or other parts of your muscles are relaxed. And again, checking in with your emotions and thoughts. Maybe you notice a sense of calm or happiness. Maybe you sense anger or resentment or guilt. Just naming and noticing whatever's showing up, whatever might be going on in your mind. Maybe you're noticing a memory replaying. And just allowing it to be there. And then, when you're ready, I'd like you to put your hands over your heart. And these are hands that have done many things. They've cared for many people, I'm sure, whether it's family, friends, children, colleagues, people we love. These hands have done many things. And just holding yourself as if you're a whimpering puppy dog or a crying baby. And just allowing yourself to feel the warmth from your hands and noticing as it radiates out into the rest of your body. Just acknowledging yourself for taking this time for you. And amongst all the other things that you could be doing, you chose this time for you. So just taking some deep breaths. Again, acknowledging whatever's showing up for you. Just acknowledging that if there is suffering showing up, that this is a moment of suffering. This is a moment of humanness. And that what's showing up for you right now might be really, really hard. And it feels hard because it is hard. But that you are not the only one right now. Even if you're the only one you're aware of that's going through suffering right now, you are not alone. Suffering is part of being human. Taking some more deep breaths. Acknowledging yourself again for giving this practice a go. And when you're ready, you can bring your hands back down to your lap. Open your eyes. Look around the room. Bring yourself back to what you're doing right now, which is something really important for yourself, for your loved ones, right? Because when we do something for ourselves, it's filling our own cup up so that we can pour out for others. So it is not selfish, as our minds sometimes like to say. My mind likes to say that. All right, and if you need, you can take some time to pause the video. Sometimes this has brought up a lot of emotions. And when you're ready, we'll go on to the next part of the workshop. Okay. Thanks for giving it a go with me. All right, Anna, do you want to go on to the next one? Cool. So that's the bulk of the workshop. Thank you for coming. But Anu and I, we always like to finish our one-to-one sessions or our wellbeing workshops with a practical plan, because We don't want it to just be things that you do in session, but we want it to be things that you can implement in your life to look after yourselves and enable you to also be there for others. So what I'd like us to do is to write down a small step that you could take towards where you want to be. And we'll give you some examples. And we'll be giving you, as part of the Wellbeing Workshop form that you would have accessed this clip on, there is also some self-compassion resources that you can access as well for your later use, okay? So you can do similar practices to this later on. So here's some examples of some things that you might choose as your step that you're going to do for yourself over the next week or two. So it might be do a self-compassion exercise at least once per day over the next week before I go to bed. It might be send a group message to start organizing a family gathering at my loved one's favorite beach. Or for someone else, it might be write a letter to my loved one on Saturday at 10 a.m. So what are you going to do? Yeah. And then once you've decided, you can always take time by pausing the video if you need to take time to think. I'd like you to think, how likely am I to take that step from 0 to 10? With 0 being, never in a million years am I going to do that, to 10 being, I will definitely do this. And if you've rated yourself as doing that step as 7 out of 10 likely to do that step, that's pretty good. Yeah, it means you're pretty likely to do it. If not, that's okay. And we might just need to talk about some strategies that can help you increase the likelihood of you doing that step, because we want this to be something that's useful to you, yeah, that you're going to be able to implement in your daily life. So if you can go on to the next one. So if you rated it particularly, if you did, or if you rated above 7 and above, that's cool too, but if you rated it as less than 7, that you were likely to do it out of 10, write down what might be a barrier to you taking the step. Do we have some examples on the next slide, Anu? So these are some examples of things that might be a bit of a barrier. Yeah, so I think I've mentioned this a few in the other wellbeing workshops, but they apply here as well. So the classic one that's often me, I might forget. So is it that you need to set that alarm on your phone for Saturday, or put a post-it note, or tell someone for accountability, or write a note on the fridge? Another one, my mind might talk me out of it. Yeah, so we have this strategy called opposite action, committing to do the opposite of what your mind tells you to do when it's unhelpful. Thinking of it as trialing the strategy as an experiment to see what happens. Sometimes when we haven't done something before, our mind likes to talk us out of it, but we won't know if it's useful or not until we give it a go. And lastly, another strategy is, or another barrier is, I might get interrupted. Yeah, right, classic one, when we have busy families or work schedules, I might get interrupted. So do you actually need to try and do your steps somewhere else at a different time of day or in a different place? Yeah. And some people, they might also need to reduce the number of times they're going to do the step over the next while. Maybe doing it once is enough. Starting is the hardest part, right? Once we start, it gets easier. So it might be that we make it, I'm going to do this at least once. So then if you want to do it more, great. But it makes it easier to achieve if we just do it at least once. Yeah, it feels less daunting. So we're coming to a bit of a close, but I'd like you to hang on for a couple more minutes. So just as a reminder, Anu and I, so I'm the health improvement practitioner, Anu's our health coach. We're based at Mangere Health Centre. Appointments are available in person or via phone. We're often a lot more available than the GPs. We often have same day or next day appointments, or at least same week. So please reach out. You can also fill out the feedback form or call Mangere Health Centre, yeah, and the numbers there. And feedback, we would love, love, love to hear how you found today's session. It allows us to know how to create further workshops or improve our practice one-to-one so we can support people better. The brief questionnaire is there. It's a good check-in for yourself, but it also allows us to gather anonymous statistics that go back to the Ministry of Health and our primary healthcare organisation so we can keep the service free as well. All right, and I think we have a closing. So I have another quote for closing. Before we close, I do just want to acknowledge that a lot of thoughts, emotions, memories, sensations may have come up for you during this time. Grief is a challenging topic. It's challenging to go through. Suffering is hard. But I just want to take this time to acknowledge you for taking this time for yourself. As I mentioned before, taking time for ourselves enables us to show up better for those we love. All right, so I just want to leave us with this thought. Grief is so human and it hits everyone at some point or another. If you love, you will grieve, and that's just given. All right, take care. Ka kite, reach out if you need to.